The text message lit up my phone at 5:37 in the morning. I stared at the glowing screen in the dark. Account access suspended pending verification of recent authorization changes. A normal person might panic. My heart rate stayed perfectly flat. Working 12-hour shifts in a trauma center teaches you how to compartmentalize disaster. I opened my banking app. A bright red banner flashed across the top of my screen. Locked. That account held $850,000. My grandfather left it to me when he died. And he set it up with one ironclad rule: keep my mother away from it. He knew exactly what she was capable of. And he warned me before his final breath. I threw off the heavy blanket. My bare feet hit the cold hardwood floor. It was too early for bank hours. But it was the perfect time to go to war. I made the tactical error of calling my mother first. Some tiny, pathetic piece of my inner child still wanted to believe this was a bank error. A glitch. A misunderstanding. She answered on the second ring. My mother never wakes up before 7. Her voice was entirely too calm. Completely rehearsed. She used that flat, condescending tone she always reserved for her most vicious manipulation. She told me she and my father were stepping in. She claimed I was having a psychotic break over a recent breakup. She said they had spoken to a doctor and were taking over my finances for my own good. My father chimed in on speakerphone, his voice thick with fake sympathy, telling me to just rest and let them handle the grown-up matters. I hung up the phone. I pressed my palms against the cool granite of my kitchen counter and let the reality of the betrayal wash over me. I got dressed in a sharp navy blazer, tied my hair back, and grabbed my keys. The drive across the sweltering Phoenix asphalt felt like moving through a furnace. My mind raced backward, pulling up decades of memories. My mother had spent my entire life rehearsing for this exact moment. When I was 12, she took my birthday money to pay for her country club dues and called it a family tax. When I was in nursing school, she would casually throw away my study guides because she needed the desk space, telling me I was being overly dramatic when I confronted her. Every ignored boundary, every gaslighting comment, every time my sister smirked while taking my things, it was all practice. They had been testing my defenses for 30 years, waiting for the prize to get big enough. Today, the prize was $850,000. I walked through the heavy glass doors of the bank the second they unlocked. I skipped the teller line entirely and demanded to speak to the branch manager. A man in his 50s with a sharp suit led me into his glass-walled office. I laid out my identification. He turned his monitor toward me. The documents my parents had submitted were sitting right there on the screen. A forged power of attorney, a letter from a psychiatrist claiming I was a danger to myself and completely unfit to manage my own affairs. I pulled out my phone and pulled up the Arizona Medical Board public registry. I typed in the doctor's name. 0 results. The psychiatrist did not exist. The branch manager frowned. He clicked a few buttons on his keyboard, pulling up the email my parents had sent to expedite the account freeze. He right-clicked the attached PDF of the medical letter and opened the document properties. The digital certificate stared back at us in plain text. The Adobe Acrobat Pro software license used to create the forgery was registered to Marcus Design Build LLC. That was my brother-in-law's company, my sister's husband. The puzzle pieces snapped together with bone-chilling clarity. Marcus had recently been hired for a massive luxury home build across town. A mutual friend had mentioned that Marcus was severely behind schedule and dodging phone calls. He had embezzled over $400,000 in client deposits to fund my sister's lavish lifestyle, the European vacations, the designer bags, the luxury cars. Those clients were exactly 48 hours away from filing contractor fraud charges with the police. My family did not just want my money out of greed. They needed my grandfather's trust fund instantly to replace the stolen funds before Courtney and Marcus faced federal indictment. The entire family was complicit in a coordinated, desperate heist. The bank manager called the police. Officer Reyes arrived 15 minutes later. I sat in the leather chair, keeping my posture rigid. I refused to act like a weeping victim. Using my triage experience, I profiled my mother for the officer. I explained exactly how my mother would walk through those doors. I described the exact pitch of her voice, the fake tears she would produce, the way she would clutch her chest to feign a panic attack, and how my father would stand half a step behind her, playing the stoic, protective husband. I signed a sworn affidavit right there on the desk. Because my parents had to finalize the wire transfer in person, Officer Reyes and I established a very simple trap. We would let them walk in. We would let them hand the forged documents to the teller. We would let them commit attempted grand larceny and uttering a forged instrument in real time. 40 minutes later, the glass doors of the lobby slid open. My mother walked in. She marched straight up to the teller window. The performance was flawless. She began weeping loudly, clutching a tissue, broadcasting her narrative to the entire lobby. She announced that her daughter was suffering a severe mental collapse. She begged the teller to process the paperwork to save me from myself. The crowd of mourning customers turned to stare, their faces softening with pity for this poor, terrified mother. My father placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. They were so wrapped up in their own brilliant deception, they never even glanced toward the manager's office. Officer Reyes stepped out from the back hallway. My mother adjusted her mask of concern perfectly, turning toward the uniform with a tragic, relieved sigh. She handed the forged documents directly to the officer, sealing her own fate. Then, Officer Reyes stepped aside. My mother looked past the uniform. Her eyes locked onto mine through the glass wall of the office. Her face faltered. The mask shattered completely. The tragic, weeping mother vanished, replaced by a pale, wide-eyed woman staring down the barrel of her own hubris. The color drained from my father's face. Officer Reyes pulled the handcuffs from her belt. The metallic click echoed through the silent bank lobby. She arrested them both on the spot. The crowd of customers who moments ago felt overwhelming pity now watched in absolute shock as the polished, wealthy couple was read their rights. I sat in the office. I did not stand up. I did not nod. I refused to break eye contact. I watched my mother's reputation, her entire carefully constructed reality, burn to the ground in the middle of downtown Phoenix. The legal system moves slowly, but desperation moves fast. My parents bonded out of county jail the next afternoon, furious, humiliated, and backed into a corner. My mother attempted one last venomous strike. She purchased a burner phone and called the hospital board where I work. She left a frantic, anonymous voicemail claiming that I was actively stealing heavy narcotics from the emergency room to feed an addiction. She wanted my nursing license revoked. She wanted my career destroyed. She forgot that I am a trauma nurse. I anticipate the hemorrhage before it happens. The moment they were arrested, I had filed a strict court-ordered order of protection. When the hospital administrator called me about the voicemail, I did not panic. I called Officer Reyes directly. Because Reyes was already the lead investigator on an active federal forgery case, she used the anonymous hospital call as immediate probable cause. She subpoenaed the carrier logs. The cell tower data pinged directly to my parents' living room. It was a direct violation of her bail conditions. It was a felony witness intimidation charge. Officer Reyes drove to my mother's house that evening and personally revoked her bail. She called me later that night. She told me my mother was back in a cell without the option of bonding out again. She told me to have a good life, and she closed the case. But I was not finished. My sister and her husband were still sitting in their luxury home, waiting for the money to save them. I requested a copy of my parents' public arrest report. I drafted a very polite, very anonymous email. I attached the police report, the details of the forged metadata linking Marcus Design Build LLC to the crime, and a brief explanation of how Marcus planned to use their deposits. I sent that email directly to the angry clients who were preparing to sue him. Armed with hard proof of active federal banking fraud, the clients' lawyers did not wait. They filed an emergency injunction the very next morning. The bank's automated anti-money laundering system flagged every single account tied to my brother-in-law. They froze his business accounts. They froze his personal checking. The business imploded overnight without cash flow. The contractors walked off the site. Without the trust fund to cover his tracks, the embezzlement was exposed. They lost the business. They lost the luxury house. They lost everything. Months have passed since that morning in the bank. The judge sentenced my mother to 6 years in state prison with eligibility for parole after 4 years. My father received a 4-year sentence for his complicity. The court ordered total restitution of the legal fees. The community found out. Of course, my parents' country club memberships were quietly revoked. Their friends stopped returning calls. The reputation they committed federal crimes to protect evaporated into thin air. Just last week, a letter arrived in the mail. The return address was the state correctional facility. The handwriting was my mother's. I knew exactly what it said without having to open it. It would be a symphony of guilt. It would say she did it for the family. It would say I was ungrateful. It would demand forgiveness because she is still my mother. I stood in my kitchen, holding the envelope. I felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just the quiet hum of my refrigerator. I dropped the unopened letter straight into the trash can and went back to making my coffee. I live my life in peace now. My trust fund sits securely in a new institution, locked down with 3-factor authentication and a legal team on retainer. My best friend Erica comes over on Sundays. We drink wine on the patio. We talk about our careers, our futures, our real lives. Erica is my chosen family. She respects my boundaries. She celebrates my victories. And she would never forge my signature to steal my future. I want to look you directly in the eye and tell you the truth about toxic families. Society will try to convince you that because someone shares your DNA, you owe them your suffering. They will tell you that family is everything. They will tell you to be the bigger person. But kindness without a spine is just compliance with a nicer face on it. I learned 3 brutal rules from surviving my family. Rule number 1, blood is merely a biological fact. Loyalty is a behavioral choice. You do not owe your resources, your sanity, or your future to people who view you as a checking account rather than a human being. The title of mother, father, or sister does not grant immunity from consequence. Rule number 2, forgiveness does not require granting access. You can let go of the anger. You can heal your own heart. But you can do all of that while standing inside a fortress with the drawbridge pulled up. You can forgive someone and still send them to a courtroom. You can wish them well while ensuring they never get within 100 miles of your peace again. Rule number 3, the bravest thing you will ever do is survive the smear campaign. When you cut off toxic family members, they will cast you as the villain in their story. They will tell the neighbors you are crazy. They will tell the extended family you are cruel. Let them keep their false narrative. Your reality is documented, protected, and entirely yours. If you are listening to this right now and you have a pit in your stomach because someone you love treats you worse than a stranger on the street, listen to me. Stop making excuses for their cruelty. Stop believing that if you just love them harder, they will suddenly respect you. Get your documentation, secure your accounts. Trust the quiet voice inside your head that has been begging you to walk away. You are not crazy. You are not overly dramatic. You are just finally awake. If they want to perform, let them perform. But you make sure you are the one writing the final act. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there shouting, why on earth did she call her mother first? Or maybe, why did she endure 30 years of microaggressions, stolen money, and gaslighting before finally drawing a hard line? It is incredibly easy to sit back and judge from the outside. But let us take a step back and decode the psychology of what was actually happening. To understand her hesitation, we need to talk about the slot machine effect. In clinical psychology, this is known as intermittent reinforcement. When a toxic parent mistreats you 90% of the time, but offers a tiny, fleeting crumb of warmth or validation, the other 10%, your brain becomes addicted to the chase. You keep pulling the lever, hoping today is the day you finally hit the jackpot, the day you get the loving mother you always deserved. Our protagonist was not naive, and she was certainly not stupid. She was trauma bonded to a mirage. Her family weaponized that hope, keeping her emotionally tethered just long enough to try and drain her dry. But the second that mirage evaporated, look at how flawlessly she executed her defense. Let us break down her street-smart financial moves, because this is a masterclass in survival. Move number 1, the audit strategy. Narcissistic scammers are deeply arrogant, which makes them sloppy. They absolutely hate details. By simply cross-referencing the fake doctor on a public medical board registry and checking the digital certificate embedded in a PDF file, she destroyed a federal fraud operation in under 5 minutes. Move number 2, strategic anticipation. Instead of reacting emotionally and screaming in the bank lobby, she profiled her mother for the police. She laid out the exact emotional performance in advance, transforming a messy family argument into an airtight legal trap. Move number 3, the buyout through indirect warfare. By handing the public police report over to her brother-in-law's victims, she triggered an automated anti-money laundering freeze. She legally neutralized their funding without ever having to touch them herself. She protected her $850,000 by ensuring they had zero resources left to fight her. But before you leave, I need you to understand one final thing. The most dangerous moment in leaving a toxic family is not the day you cut them off. It is not the day you change the locks, freeze the accounts, hire the lawyer, or refuse the phone call. The most dangerous moment comes afterward, when the house is finally quiet, because silence feels strange when you have spent your entire life living inside chaos. At first, peace will not feel peaceful. It will feel suspicious. You will wake up without a screaming text message and wonder what trap is coming next. You will see a missed call from an unknown number and feel your stomach tighten. You will receive a normal invitation from a normal friend and overthink every word, because your nervous system has been trained to search for hidden consequences in ordinary kindness. That is what abuse does. It does not just hurt you while it is happening. It teaches your body to expect betrayal long after the betrayers are gone. For months after my mother went to prison, I still checked my bank account every morning before brushing my teeth. Not because I needed to, because some part of me still believed she might crawl through a crack in the system and touch what belonged to me. I still kept screenshots. I still saved voicemails. I still walked into rooms and automatically looked for exits. My life was safe. But my body had not caught up with the evidence yet. And that is the part nobody talks about. Winning the legal battle is not the same as healing from the war. People love the dramatic ending. They love the handcuffs. They love the frozen accounts. They love the moment the villain's mask drops in public and everybody finally sees what you have been trying to explain for years. But after the applause fades, you are still left with the quiet work of rebuilding a self that was trained to apologize for existing. I had to learn how to spend money without feeling guilty. I had to learn how to rest without expecting punishment. I had to learn how to accept help without wondering what invoice would arrive later. I had to learn that love does not arrive with paperwork, threats, condition, and a deadline. Real love does not require you to shrink. That was the hardest lesson of all. One Sunday afternoon, Erica came over with 2 bottles of cheap wine and a ridiculous chocolate cake from the grocery store. No occasion. No hidden agenda. No emotional trap. She just walked into my kitchen, put the cake on the counter, and said, "You survived. That deserves dessert." I laughed so hard I cried. Not the pretty kind of crying. Not cinematic. Not graceful. I stood there in my socks, holding a plastic fork, sobbing over a grocery store cake because for the first time in my life, celebration did not feel like bait. That was the moment I realized I was not just protecting money anymore. I was protecting softness. My family had mistaken my kindness for weakness because they had never understood what kindness actually is. Kindness is not letting people rob you because they raised you. Kindness is not handing your future to someone who calls theft a family emergency. Kindness is not setting yourself on fire so your parents can keep pretending they are respectable people. Real kindness begins with telling the truth. And the truth was simple. My mother did not lose her daughter because I became cruel. She lost her daughter because she treated me like a resource until the resource finally hired legal counsel. My father did not go to prison because I overreacted. He went to prison because he chose silence, signature, lies, and a forged document over his own child. My sister did not lose her house because I ruined her life. She lost it because she built her comfort on stolen money and expected me to become the emergency exit. Every consequence they faced had their fingerprints on it. I only stopped cushioning the fall. That is the part toxic families hate the most. They do not hate your anger. They can use anger. They can quote it, twist it, screenshot it, and send it to relatives as proof that you are unstable. What they truly hate is your calm documentation. They hate your boundaries. They hate when you stop arguing and start collecting evidence. They hate when you no longer need them to admit what they did. Because the paper trail speaks louder than their performance. And maybe that is the final rule. Do not fight for the truth in rooms where people are committed to misunderstanding you. Put the truth somewhere it cannot be screamed over. Put it in bank records. Put it in police reports. Put it in emails. Put it in court filings. Put it in change passwords. Close doors. Clean boundaries. And a life they can no longer enter. Then walk away, not dramatically, not loudly, not with one last speech in the family group chat. Just walk away and let the silence become proof that you survived. Because one day you will wake up and realize you are not waiting for the next attack anymore. You will make coffee slowly. You will answer messages from people who actually care about you. You will look at your reflection and no longer see the villain they described. You will see someone who endured the impossible, told the truth anyway, and refused to hand the rest of their life to people who only understood control. And when that day comes, you will finally understand something powerful. The inheritance was never just $850,000. The real inheritance was the lesson my grandfather left behind. He saw the danger before I was ready to name it. He built a wall around my future because he knew love without protection is not enough when predators wear family titles. He did not just leave me money. He left me a final instruction. Do not let them take what they did not earn. So I did not, and if you are standing at the edge of that same decision right now, terrified of being called selfish, cruel, dramatic, ungrateful, or cold, let me say this clearly. You are allowed to protect the life you built. You are allowed to disappoint people who benefited from your silence. You are allowed to become unreachable to those who only reach for you when they need something. You are allowed to stop confusing guilt with love, because family should be the place where your nervous system exhales. If it is the place where your stomach drops, your hands shake, your accounts get watched, your boundaries get mocked, and your pain gets used as leverage, then what you have is not family. It is captivity with a holiday card, and the door is allowed to close. Mine did. Not with a scream. Not with revenge. Not with one last desperate attempt to make them understand. It closed with a deleted voicemail, a new bank password, a quiet Sunday dinner with my chosen family, and a woman standing in her own kitchen, finally realizing she was not abandoned. She was free. Here is the brutal, street smart verdict. Toxic relatives do not love you. They manage you. To them, you are not a human being. You are a checking account, a retirement plan, or a bailout, but a spine made of steel, backed up by undeniable legal receipts, will defeat emotional manipulation every single time. Your peace of mind is your most valuable asset. Do whatever it takes to protect it. Have you ever had to legally or financially untangle yourself from toxic people? Share your survival story in the comments below. And hit subscribe for more deep dives into the psychology of protecting your life.